Chapter 19. Dawn crept up warily on the horizon. By its new, thin light, Machiko Noguchi cupped her hand and dipped it into the river. She drank. The water was cool and sweet. She tasted it early, by the light of 2 moons, and it had tasted even better then. She looked up into the sky, as though expecting company at any moment. Nothing. No thropters or skimmers or any sort of number of airborne vehicles that could be pursuing them. She sighed and stood up. Her back was stiff, but otherwise the couple of hours of rest had been fine. She walked back up to where the 4-wheel drive vehicle was sequestered, in a bower-like assemblage of riverside and trees. Here it was neatly hidden from sight, but then, who knew if there were other ways of detecting it? With no other place to go, she headed out to the wilderness. She couldn't exactly hop on a starship and race off for the safety of light-years distant planets. She couldn't barge into the barracks and holler for help from men who didn't really know her from Eve, and who were being paid royally for their loyalty. The thought that she could somehow contact Ned Sanchez crossed her mind. However, she nixed it immediately. No way would that work now. No, she had just one hope. With what she knew now, there was another chance. With her added understanding, it was a slim possibility, but one that she had to take. Oh, she supposed she could have simply allowed herself to be caught. Evanston most likely would not indulge in simple death. Her talents and abilities were too valuable. No, most likely he'd do a selective mem wipe. Of course, some of her personality might get pulled up by the roots in the process, but hey, that was too bad. Make her a little more docile, and less likely to poke her nose in where it didn't belong. She went back to the car. In the passenger seat was the head. "How you doing, short stuff?" "It's all right," Attila winked at her. She remembered her shock and grief at his seeming demise. However, as interesting and valuable as the android's body was, it would seem that his actual consciousness circuits were in his head, and apparently capable of operation. For quite a while on their own batteries. For his part, Attila seemed oddly resigned to his new state, merely glad to still be in existence. "What do you think? Shall we keep going in this thing?" "If speed is what you want, then we should. However, it would be risky." "Yeah, they're bound to have copters out looking for us now." "Not necessarily. Wouldn't that be admitting that there was some sort of secret they were keeping?" "No. All Evanston has to do is claim we were snoopers for some rival company. I'm sure he's well within legal rights to seek us out and kill us. Or he can cover up. So the question remains." She thought about the issue for a moment, decided. "They must be watching. They know we're here." She looked ahead. "That clearing there, that will do. And if it doesn't? Then we'll get back in the car and raise such a ruckus they'll find us." "I'm glad you know what we're doing. I certainly don't. But I'll be glad to back you up." "All I can say is that I'm glad you're still around, Attila, in whatever form." His mouth managed to form a smile. "Thanks." She put on the backpack she'd found in the car, and then she tucked Attila under her arm and set off. "Looks like it's going to be a nice day," said Attila. "Yes," she said. She marched. It took 10 minutes to get out to the clearing. She strode across it toward the trees that ridged the other side. "What now?" said Attila. "Watch. Listen." She set him on a nearby rock with a good vantage point. She placed herself into a stance. She raised her hands to her mouth. She made the call. A high ululation carried over the trees, punctuated by a gruff, low-pitched snarl. She let it unwind for a full 10 seconds, then allowed its echo to settle into the leaves. "You learned that from the hunters?" asked Attila. "Yes, now be quiet. This is going to be very delicate. If it happens at all." "Yes." She waited some minutes, listening. There was no direct answer. However, her honed instincts detected something in the distance. Something coming. She felt her adrenaline rising. She felt the old machinery clicking into place. Machiko Noguchi let loose again the Karikna, the summoning, and the Meshinga, the battle dreamtime, folded over her. She was able to access areas of her mind that had been retreating from her human state. Yes, they were coming. The question was, would she have time to explain what had happened? Would these creatures remember her betrayal? If so, then she had just one slim chance, and she inwardly prepared herself to take advantage of that chance. One moment the glade in which they stood was empty, save for them. The next, a warrior materialized, shutting off his invisibility device. She did not recognize him. She spoke immediately, using a few simple phrases that she remembered from the abrupt, barking language of the Yautja. I am one with you. I come to fight with you. I am a blooded one. She had made sure before that her locks were well pulled away from the singed marking on her forehead, the marking that Broken Tusk had given her, the marking of bug acid mixed with Yautja blood. This had saved her before, and would give them pause now. The warrior was dressed in armour and helmet and stood in a battle crouch. He advanced slightly to have a look, grunted with surprise, called back to companions as yet not visible. Seeing she was not armed, he stood up and addressed her. Prepare to die. She had warned Attila to expect this, and when it happened, to keep quiet no matter what. Even though he wouldn't understand the word, he would doubtless distinguish the doom in the intonation. However, this was to be expected. It was kind of a rough greeting as well as a challenge. A test, if you will, and easy enough to pass. Should I die, it will be in battle. I have many trophies. My honor will last while my bones last. The predator grunted. He approached her. He was a regular-sized creature, which is to say much taller, much bigger than she. Although with one swipe of the blades on his wrist, he could cut her down at any time. She stood stock still. One hint of fear, one tremble, could be her undoing. She stood, chin out thrust, in a stance of honor as he walked around her. With a sudden clang, the blade erupted. The creature jabbed. The alien steel stopped just inches from her eyes. He said something quickly, only snatches of which she understood. Death, dismemberment, skull, wall, treachery. It didn't sound good. She said 3 words. Honor, courage, danger to the mega pack, or words to that effect. The blades lowered. Danger? Hard meat. Soft meat take hard meat? She tapped her cranium, indicating her brain. Dangerous warrior now. The creature shook his dreadlocks with a great moaning growl. We must stop, said Machiko. The hunter stepped back. Trick, he snarled. However, if he really believed this was a trick, then her guts would be hanging from the trees by now, and her white, shining skull would be inside the guy's net bag. No, she said. An easy word, even in Yautja parley. The hunter growled up some word from the back of his throat, spat it out. He backed up, bristling. From a belt he drew a knife. He raised it to the skies, and a call ripped through the air. Machiko, however, was not afraid. Machiko knew the meaning of the gesture, if not the precise meaning of the word. It was a summons. The bushes ridging the glade rustled as though some sudden selective wind had passed through them. Like some sort of photographic special effects in a 3D movie, spectral figures began to take shape, walking from the bushes, fading into reality. 10 of them. From a blur to solid, fierce reality. The pack. They stood, some holding spears, others holding burners. The fact that they had more than just spears and knives meant that they were now involved in more than just a hunt. They stood as a unit, staring at Machiko, their eyes burning into her soul. She stared back, defiantly, proudly. It was as though she could feel the sign on her brow pulsing, its burning flame a signal to them. This one is worthy. She is a hunter. She has been blooded. She stood her ground and called a greeting of comrades. I need your help in a great battle, she said. I have come to tell you of something you should know. Suddenly, though, another wavering and another smaller spectral figure emerged from the bushes, took form, became. We know, said the new arrival. You are traitor. Machiko's heart froze. La Nix Va, the hunter she had come to call Shorty.